I would say it's an extraordinary day for the government, with a magnificent performance by the Solicitor General, and I think questions that heavily indicated that the court is likely to rule in favor of the government. It's often hard to tell at oral argument. They're asking tough questions of both sides, but I'd have to say this was a pretty extraordinary day for the government.
Arguments and pleas are still being heard before the Supreme Court over those four little words in Obamacare that could mean the difference between health care and health void for millions of Americans. The case, technically called King v. Burwell. And our next guest is the general counsel for the Competitive Enterprise Institute, the Washington, D.C. think tank that organized and bankrolled the lawsuit now being debated. Let's welcome Sam Kazman to MidPoint. Sam, thanks for being here today.
Hi, good afternoon.
Sam, how do you react? The Huffington Post today wrote an article about this whole issue going on, the Supreme Court hearing the case, and they said this would be a cataclysm of a loss for President Obama if indeed your suit takes away Obamacare. How do you react to the word cataclysm?
Well, it might be a cataclysm for the president. I do not think it would be a cataclysm for the nation. In fact, I think it would sort of be a blessing.
Let's dig into that, please. Go ahead. Why would it be a blessing?
Sure. We've heard a lot of stories about the disaster claims that would befall people if in the wake of a loss of a court ruling in our favor. I believe many of those claims are simply untrue. But the fact is right now, under Obamacare, we have millions of Americans who are victims of that program. These are people who've been pushed from full-time work into part-time work because their companies see no other way to avoid the Obamacare mandates. There are people who are unable to buy catastrophic insurance, which is very affordable and which they would prefer because it's prohibited by Obamacare. There are people who've lost their doctors and their insurance policies because of Obamacare. And finally, that you've got taxpayers who are picking up the tab for all this.
Is it just fair to say that at the end of the day, though, this is in your lawsuit and why this came apart here, this came about, this is about the rule of law, end of story, fair?
I think that's very fair. As big an issue as Obamacare is, the rule of law is an even bigger issue, and that's the forefront of this case.
What about those people, and I'm sure you've heard this, Sam, but we're hearing it now as the Supreme Court hears a lot of these arguments. There's people out there that are scared to death, quite frankly, because what they hear is this will stop the Obamacare mandate, this will stop their health care. There are people afraid that should the Supreme Court rule for you, they'll be completely out of luck and sitting without any health care.
I think that really is false. First of all, most states that have refused to participate in the wake of a ruling in our favor could very simply change their minds and set up exchanges if in fact they think that's the course of action they should take. There are also other things that Congress could do. It could extend the subsidies if it believes that's desirable. The real fact is that a ruling in our favor would open the door to a fundamental re-examination of Obamacare. It would open the door to relief for the sorts of victims of Obamacare that I just described. And once again, coming back to the rule of law, it would go a long way towards preserving that as well.
And I want to read this for you here. This is a letter from Health and Human Services Secretary Sylvia Burwell to Senator Orrin Hatch regarding the case itself. And it starts out with, we know of no administrative actions that could, and therefore we have no plans that would, undo the massive damage to our health care system that would be caused by an adverse decision. Are these just part of the people in here trying to throw a scare into this all?
Partly, and I think it's also Secretary Burwell having her head stuck firmly in the sand, refusing to see what is a very clear possibility here. After all, we've had one court of appeals rule in our favor. The state of Oklahoma, which has a very similar lawsuit, has a district court ruling in its favor on the very same issue. And even in the Fourth Circuit, which ruled against us in the King v. Burwell case itself, you had the three judges stating that when it came to the plain language of the statute, we had the better argument. So Burwell's notion that there simply is no possibility of a ruling in our favor, and that if there is no way to undo the damage. Is both, I mean, she's basically got her hands over both her eyes and her ears.
And it seems like that's the way many people have it with regard to this. Sam, if you would please hold on just a couple of moments here. We have to take a break and come back. And when we do, Sam Kazman will join us again from the American Enterprise Institute. Let's dig deeper into the origins of this lawsuit and a lot of the controversy behind it. Again, the Supreme Court is hearing the arguments today. And if you listen to what came out of the Supreme Court yesterday, you will hear both sides claiming victory, saying that they have the best shot. Of course, we always hear that from people in any case whatsoever when it comes down to the law. What's the reality of the situation? Let's look a little bit deeper when we come back, right here on the program that questions everything. This is MidPoint.